Chapter 2, Run Like Mad. So, in Chapter 1, as a summary, we know that Louis is a little bit rebellious, wild, untamable. So let's see if he changes his character in Chapter 2, or what does change his character in Chapter 2. The rehabilitation of Louis Zamperini began with a kid. It was 1931 and Louis was 14. Well, in a locksmith shop, he heard someone say, if you put any key in any lock, it has a 1 in 50 chance of fitting. Inspired, he began collecting keys and trying locks. He had no luck until he tried his house key on the back door of the Torrance High gym. I wish that worked for me. When basketball season began, because you know everybody loves basketball season, no one understood why the stands were full when so few tickets had been sold. Finally, someone discovered Louis sneaking kids in the back door. Louis was hauled to the principal's office, who punished him by barring him from any athletic and social activity. Louis, who never joined anything, was indifferent. He didn't really care. Pete headed straight to the principal. Louis craved attention, Pete told him, but had never won it in the form of praise. He always got it from bad attention, so he sought it in the form of punishment. If Louis was recognized for doing something right, he turned his life around. Pete asked the principal to let Louis join a sport. When the principal refused, Pete asked if he could live with allowing Louis to fail. Could the principal allow Louis to be a loser? Pete asked if he could, it was a cheeky thing for a boy to say to his principal, but Pete was the one kid who could get away with such a remark. The principal gave in. Pete had big plans for Louis. A senior in 1931-1932, prior to World War II starting, Pete was a track star, having set the school's mile record of 5 minutes and 6 seconds. That's a good time for a mile, I'm telling you now. Watching Louis, whose getaway speed was his saving grace, Pete thought he saw the same talent. He wanted to make a runner out of him. In the end, it wasn't Pete who got Louis onto the track. It was his weakness for girls. Yeah, Louis. In February, some girls began assembling a team for an interclass track meet, and long-legged Louis looked like he could run. The girls worked their charms. Hey, how you doing, Louis? And Louis found himself on the track, barefoot. When everyone ran, he followed, churning along with Jimmy elbows. As he labored home last, he heard tittering, gasping, and humiliated. He ran straight off the track and hid under the bleachers. The coach muttered that kid belonged anywhere but in a foot race. Was that coach wrong or what? From then on, Pete was all over Louis, herding him onto a train and riding his bike behind him, whacking. I don't know why that music's playing, but we're going to keep going. Train and riding his bike behind him, whacking him with his stick. He's whacking him with his stick. Resentful, Louis dragged his feet, belly ached, and quit. Don't quit, Louis. Pete made him keep going. That's it, Pete. Be a good coach. He entered Louis in races, and Louis started winning. Pete was right about Louis' talent, but being forced to run made Louis defiant, because Louis had to do things on his own. At night, he listened to the train whistles, and one day in December of 1932, he couldn't bear it any longer. He's going to train harder now, everybody. The Torrance Tornado.
Mr. Morrison home to help us.
I don't know why that's playing. Anyway, it happened every Saturday. Louis went to the track, limbered up, lay in the field, visualizing his coming race. Then walked to the line, awaited the pop of the gun, and sprang away. Pete dashed around the infield, yelling instructions. When Pete gave the signal, Louis stretched out his legs, and opponents scattered behind him. Louis glided over the line. Pete tackled him, and the kids in the bleachers cheered and stomped. Louis won so many wristwatches, the traditional prize of winning a track meet, that he handed them out all over town. That's Louis and Pete. Louis' supreme high school moment came in the 1934 Southern California Track and Field Championship, running in the best field of high school milers ever assembled. He routed them all, and smoked the mile in 4 minutes and 21 seconds. I double dog dare anyone to have that mile record right now in Summers Point. 4 minutes. He shattered the national high school record. Louis did. His main pursuer so exhausted himself that he had to be carried off the track. A reporter predicted that Louis' record would stand for 20 years. It stood for 19. Good boy, Louis. Once his hometown arch villain, like everyone was like, Louis, no one can stand Louis. Louis was now a superstar. He changed his life around. And Torrance forgave him everything. The Los Angeles Times was stripped with stories on the Torrance tornado. Rumor had it that the Torrance tornado or Torrance Herald insured Louis' legs for $50,000. Torrance is carpooled to his races and crammed the grandstands. Embarrassed, Louis asked his parents not to come. Louise, his mother, snuck to the track fence anyway, but got so nervous she covered her eyes. By spring, he realized he wasn't going to make it. Though he was getting faster every day, he couldn't force his body to improve quickly enough to catch his 1,500-meter rivals by summer. See, he wants to make the Olympics, but he just isn't quick enough for that mile. He was simply too young. He was heartbroken. In May, Louis was leafing through a newspaper when he saw a story on the Compton Open, a prestigious track meet to be held on May 22nd. The headliner in the 5,000 meters was 26-year-old Norman Bright, America's second fastest 5,000-meter man, behind Don Lash, a 23-year-old record-smashing machine. America would send three men in the 5,000-meter to Berlin, which was where the Olympics were held, in 1939. And you know who was ruling Berlin in 1939? Adolf Hitler. And Lash and Bright were considered locks. Pete urged Louis to enter the race. If you stay with Norman Bright, he said, you'll make the Olympic team. The idea was a stretch. The mile was 4 laps. The 5,000 was more than 12. 3 miles and 188 yards, which is like a 5K. Louis had only twice raced beyond a mile, and the 5,000, like the mile, was dominated by older men. He had only 2 weeks to train. And with the Olympic trials in July, now remember, this is May, 2 months to become America's youngest elite 5,000, but he had nothing to lose. Nothing. He trained so hard, his foot bled. The race was a barn burner. Louis and Bright flew off, leaving the field far behind. Imagine it in your head. Lap after lap, they dueled, trading the lead and sending roars to the crowd. They turned into the final home stretch together, and with the crowd screaming, finished almost dead even. In the fastest 5,000 run in America in 1936. Bright had won by a glimmer. In June, after Louis performed brilliantly in 2 more races, he's going to end up being in the Olympics. The Olympics! 1939. We'll continue with the next video. This is a Salucci production. Thank you. Okay, bye.